I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm your host, the Magi, and the June 2025 banned and restricted announcement is in the books. And, well, this is a fairly historic level of action that they've taken. I've actually waited a couple of days to let the thousands of videos discussing what occurred to go by the wayside so that we could instead discuss where we go from here. Because ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard yet, the standard meta is basically decimated. They targeted all of the top tier decks, not only from the recent Pro Tour, but all the way down to the Arena Best of One ladder. No one really went unscathed, and budget players in particular are fairly hard hit, as many of my favorite budget decks have been all but removed from the format. We've got rotation coming up. Many commentators had discussed the idea that Wizards might actually take no action, although most agreed that some needed to happen. I myself speculated about 3 cards from Standard, although with 9 or 10 cards in the conversation, even I wasn't able to make any real predictions. But what do you say we take a look at what remains, what we know, and try and move forward here, not only over the next 2 to 4 weeks before previews and rotation respectively, but beyond that as budget players, what's important now and what can we kind of ignore. But before we get into all that, take just a moment to like, comment, and subscribe, because that kind of thing really keeps this boat moving. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, right. Those of you out there that are familiar with my Patreon will more than likely recognize this particular graphic. This was the discussion-worthy portion of the standard best of one meta prior to the ban announcement, and yeah, that's a lot of different decks. And if you add that up, it's about 28% of the total meta. So more than a quarter. Really a phenomenal gap left here. And really the gap that was left behind is even larger because I didn't expect the Pixie pickup decks to get hit the way they did. So really this is probably more like in the low 30s total percentage. Really a lot missing here, and a lot of potential different directions that standard best of one on Arena can move towards. And I'm sure we all know just how abysmal the field was for Pro Tour Final Fantasy at Vegas, with over 80% of the decks being across just 3 archetypes. Of course, that was Is It Prowess, Omniscience, and a mono red aggro variant of some sort. While these certainly were the most popular and were the ones that made it to the top 8 table, Prowess and Mono Red withstanding, these were not the most successful decks, however. It turns out that only 6 archetypes at PT Vegas finished with a win rate of 55% or higher. And when we further eliminate the 3 singleton deck entries of Orzhov Demons, Selesnya Gearhulk, and Boros Monument, well, Golgari Roots comes out on top with a 61.4% win rate, just above the mono red aggro decks that actually won the event with a 60.4% win rate. And Golgari Roots is a very budget accessible deck that I have not talked about for some time. It's not going out with the next rotation, although it does lose a couple of cards, as many decks are apt to do. It will be sticking around more than likely for the next 18 months. And certainly if you have already put together a version of this, I did deck lists and various deck techs more than a year ago. Now is a good time to dust that deck off and use that over the next few weeks and months. Now, despite Wizards of the Coast and the banned and restricted team taking such a called shot against the standard meta, believe it or not, there are still good decks out there to play. And while I refer to this as death of a meta, well, certain aspects of the meta remain. One of, I think, the safe haven decks that we can turn back to time and time again during periods like this are the white base life gain decks. And we're seeing those really strong at the moment. They're only a little over 1% of the meta, but a 57% win rate for what most people consider kind of a joke deck. And hey, 57% win rate in the broader standard meta is not a joke at all. On the exact opposite end of the coin, so to speak, if we look at the very top deck going into the ban announcement, this was a mono black griefer deck where it just kills your creatures and makes you discard your hand over and over and over again. The deck almost doesn't have to have a win con, but oftentimes we would see the mono black demons in there as a win con. So we went from 1% to 10% of the meta, the largest meta share, both having 57% win rate. Which of these do you think uses less wildcards? I'll give you a minute to think about that. But hey, spoilers, it's the white base life gain decks. And you can do stuff here like go into the Orzhov Bats that plays off the life gain as well as some tribal aspects. That looks to be a very good poised deck. Mono blue griefer that just counters stuff. Again, almost doesn't have to have a win con, but Tolarian Terror is there. And in fact, it's part of your starter collection. So again, a very cheap deck to build. Mono red might be down, but it's not out. I think the best mono red deck at the moment is Goblins. And if I was looking to field a deck like that, that's where it would be. Just be aware that one of the Goblin Lords does rotate here very shortly. So be careful about what you craft. And if you're looking for other red-based decks, obviously Vivi Izzet combo is going to be a thing because they're not going to ban a mythic card while they're still selling packs. Meta, format, popularity, etc. be damned. They're in this to make money, y'all, and that is job one, day in, day out. Also, something like Rakdos Lizards is probably going to make a comeback. And like I said earlier, the Golgari Roots, very strong deck at the moment that many of you may already have. So with so many decks to choose from, obviously it would be easy to think that the correct thing to do is start investing in one of these decks to start recovering your deck potential and get used to the new meta. But the reality is no. I really want to take this opportunity to encourage you to conserve your wild cards here. And I know we just got handed like 20 wild cards thanks to the rebate program when it comes to bans. And for some of us, that might be the largest bundle of wildcards we've ever received on Arena, and it's very tempting to spend those. But the reality is we want to hold on to these, and let me explain to you why. In the finance world that I large part come from, the idea that you make better decisions with better access to information is not only pretty well known, but very widely accepted. In fact, it's the main reason that insider trading is illegal in most parts of the world. And it's that information that we're really talking about here over the next 30 days. Unless something goes horribly wrong, I expect to publish this video on July 3rd. And, well, the first look at Edge of Eternity's previews is just 5 days away. And even at that first look, we not only can really expect to know all the set's major mechanics, but some, if not all, of the 2 color archetypes that are going to be presented in the brand new set. That set will be completely previewed by the 18th. Pre-release weekend, where you can get some actual play experience, is the 25th through the 27th, 28th, depending upon where you are in the world. And of course, Edge of Eternities goes live on the 29th of July on Arena and brings with it the rotation of the 4 oldest sets currently in Standard. That is a huge difference of information between today and what is just 25 or 26 days away. So you can really expect to make better decisions about your wildcards a month from now, or in many cases as little as 5 days from now, than what you could do today or 2 days ago when these bans were announced and took effect. So hold, or hodl, as the youth says. Keep those wild cards. You're going to do better things with them in the very near future, and we're not talking about a very long period of time. I would not be in there experimenting and brewing new decks. Play with what you have. Don't spend your resources. Odds are you have budget decks that even if you weren't playing them a week ago, maybe you rolled those out 2 years ago, but they're still in your collection. You still have viable cards. You can tweak those with other newer cards in your collection. And all in all, really the goal here is to get through the next less than 30 days so that we can apply our resources even better. Really, just a couple weeks into August, we'll not only have Edge of Eternities out, we'll have the rotation done with, but we'll also be done drafting Edge of Eternities as quick drafts, or mostly done at that point, and we can really start deck building with some real conviction and, as I said, better knowledge than what we have today. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, at the time of recording, I have not done so yet, but it is my intention to go in and clean up the budget deck tier list and get it ready for that next building window with Edge of Eternities. I won't be doing a budget deck tier list video this season. I never do one just before the rotation because, like I said, it's not really the right time to be building decks. This is the time to hold on to your resources and apply those better in the future. So that is the plan here. But if you're looking for some broad strokes direction or maybe some reminders of things that might be hiding out in your collection, that is going to be a good place to check out. This is also a really good time to use your MTG Assistant. And from the main screen, just click on Collection and Deck Advisor. And of course, you can pick any format, but let's keep in mind that all of these cards that just got banned in Standard, for a large part at least, I guess I shouldn't say all, are still legal in not only Alchemy, but all of the Eternal formats on Arena. So if you need a place that's not Standard, those are some great formats out there to maybe start exploring. You can select either a particular format or just keep it at all. I've got this sorted by wildcards, but what you want to do is kind of scroll through and look not only at the decks that you have all the cards for, and well, as you can see, the plan works, so I have a lot of decks that I could build right now that are considered pretty top tier in various formats, but you also want to look at the decks that maybe you're only a couple of wildcards away from being able to build, and maybe those are good places to invest. My general rule is to look for decks with a 55% win rate or higher, and like this mono red and historic only has 47. If you're playing mono red and only hitting a 47% win rate, it's time to park that deck and forget that it exists. But meanwhile, you look at something like this Timeless, it's got a 65% win rate, and that's much more where you want to be. Here's a 64% Rakdos in Historic, and I guarantee you that is mostly mono red. So take a look around, see what you have, not only in your existing collection, but as potential additions that maybe get you new decks. Brawl and yes, even Standard Brawl are great places to be. And if you didn't notice last week in our midweek Magic videos, the Quina deck for Brawl has, well, some questionable interactions. I'm not sure that it's working correctly. It could be a glitch. So use it with caution because they sometimes punish people who abuse glitches. But I have taken the liberty of verifying that that also works in Standard Brawl. So an uncommon commander and a bunch of copies of Slime Against Humanity is a pretty cheap Standard Brawl deck to potentially get you through the month. So hey guys, do what you got to do. Hold on to as many resources as you can. Easy for me to say. And let's convene about a month from now and take a more insightful look at the meta. And of course, I want to take this opportunity to thank my supporting patrons because being a small content creator comes with big bills. And I just couldn't do everything that I do without their monthly support. Thanks, guys. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful in your arena experience, we have a few suggestions for what you could watch next.